Greg, you can change your name appearance if you want to, but you can keep it that way too. We'll just all call you Gary Gregoire Cuquillo. Just say his whole
It,
name.
it
Makes
seems
me
like
feel
an
I'm in trouble.
actor. It seems like an actor, Gary Grant or something like that. So you're a Hollywood star.
Yes, an international film star, right, Gio?
It makes me feel like I'm in trouble when people call me Gary Gregoire. So, like I messed up.
So,
Greg, were you one of those people whose mom yelled at you with your full name?
Yes, pretty much. Yep.
yeah, if you really want to get my attention, just say Thomas Wayne Ives. Oh dear, what did I do this time? Okay, I'll go ahead and give a brief intro, and then I'm eager to hear the others. And then a while back, some people were reaching out to me for help on LinkedIn, and I wanted to help them all that I could. And then eventually some people wrote posts about how helpful I was. And it was kind of humbling, actually, because I kept feeling like, well, my help's not that great. I mean, I do what I can. Well, then one of them said something like this: Mr. Tom, thank you. You're the only one that helps me. And I knew that wasn't true. I knew he hadn't met people like Danny and Andrew and, Kate yet. But so when those people wrote articles about me, I got more connections. I got more requests for mentoring. And as Manpreet painfully knows, I never say no. So it was just a question about how to do an increasingly better job, how to handle the volume. And so we turned to these sessions. In the very first week, she comes sometimes still, Naveen, maybe she's here, but she's maybe off my screen. And I said, Naveen, I know it's maybe a little scary because you don't know all these people, but would you please ask the questions to me that you wanted to ask me? And let's let the group give you some answers too. I already knew in my heart that this would go better because when people care about each other, you have more together. And that's the spirit that leads us. So it was interesting. I gave a pretty good answer. It was okay. But then the other people started giving her answers. And you could have put a meter on her countenance, on the glow on her face. And it went from here to here to here. She was positively glowing by the time everybody attempted to give her some good advice and help her. And it never stopped. And then we realized we formed not a leadership team because we already had a leader. It's a spirit called More Together, but we started a stewardship team. How can we keep the group how can we keep making sure the group's getting helped the way they need and making sure that this helping each other is still growing? So we started with icebreakers, things that maybe someone wouldn't think to ask, but that we all need to ask. And that happens by reading a lot of LinkedIn posts carefully, by being in touch with people. And so that's what we do now. And we've covered a lot of topics in the last, we're still pretty young, but we've put some good miles under us in the way we help each other. And this is our second week to talk about presentations. How can we help each other grow in our presentation abilities? And by the way, none of us are thinking that, we have a session and we hear everything and we take good notes and we go off and we practice that and we've mastered it. We know that's a lie. We have a good session. We hear some things. We hope to take some notes. We hope to write some good blog posts from it if we can, and share it with the world. But that just means, this is the beginning of showing up to practice it. And there's going to be times we fail, and we want you to come back and share your wins and your fails, and we'll encourage you. And I certainly I've had to learn the hard way through my life that once you learn something, that's just a cue to start practicing it. And it's going to take your whole life to get better at it. And one last thing before we hear from our dear Giovanna is this. I hope none of you ever desire to regard yourself as the best or the master at something. The reason I say that, once you're in that position, you've stopped learning. Your learning has decelerated. As you're getting better at something, be really good to help others get better at it too, because that way they're going to get better in ways from their background at that thing than you would have, and you get to help each other. It's like you can climb a mountain faster and safer as a group than you can individually if you do it right. And that's what we're trying to do here. So I hope none of you want to become the master of anything, just someone that has a more together spirit as you're growing and learning. And with that, dear Giovanna, we're excited to hear from you, as we always are.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, let's start. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.
Gio, you are a co-host. I think you are able to share it.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so yes. Now you can see my screen. Can you confirm you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I didn't see you. Okay, so the idea of this presentation is just to gather all the amazing advice that all the family gave the last session and to add some advice to improve our communication skills. So this is just something that we have built together, that we love to do always. So the last session, we talked about the importance of be prepared ourselves. So you gave amazing advice about that. So I'm going to focus on just two things. Is try to manage your emotions, to focus on what you have to say and about the topic, that is the important thing here, and try some techniques to be relaxed. And something that Tom repeats constantly is that try to be calm, because that's the magic of a great presentation. Then we talk about the audience. We need to know who is part of our audience, the backgrounds, the knowledge that they have about the topic. And this is important. This is something that we highlight the last session. And of course, something that I have mentioned is the topic, is the base of our presentation, is what we are going to talk about. And of course, if you are going to give a presentation, you need to know about the presentation. You don't need to be the expert, because it's not necessary, but you need to manage the information that is necessary to communicate your message. So you have to be aware of that. And of course, to give a great presentation, the formula is practice, practice, and practice. And the things that you said, like practice in front of someone that can give you feedback, or record yourself to see you in a video, to listen to your voice, to see the image that you are projecting the moment that you are presenting is important. So this is part of the presentation, and all this advice you gave during the last session. Now I'm going to emphasize in another element that is very important in our presentation, that is the language. But not our language, the audience language. But I'm not talking about the English, German, Hindi, or all the languages. I'm talking about the terminology that our audience use to express something related with the topic that we are talking about. Because in our audience, we are going to have different backgrounds, and different level of experience about the topic that we are talking about. Okay, I can see if there are any questions, please, guys or Tom, could you please help me with that? Because, okay, Kim, you give you some, okay, I'm going to read, it's important. When giving a presentation, if you are nervous or anxious, there's a brain hack you can use to give a better presentation. Say out loud, you're excited. Yeah. Yeah, I have a secret related with that, but maybe I can share it in private because we are streaming, but it's related with that. Okay, so we need to be focusing the fact that we have in our audience different level of experience, and we have different backgrounds. This is important. And as we are a family, I am doing a little research about how to communicate better in our dashboards, our results. So I'm digging in the post of our contributors on LinkedIn. They are amazing in the way that they are sharing their experience. And something is that we need to think and speak like our audience. So we need to use their mindset. And there is a post that I love this post. I'm going to share it now. This is the post, is I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago from Nicholas. Then I'm going to share all the links. Don't worry. You can, if you haven't read it before this is very nice. And I would like to have your help for this part. Please, I need a volunteer to read the first part. Who can read it for me? I can see all the, maybe I can ask for some help. Okay, Greg, please, could you read the first paragraph?
I'd be happy to.
Please.
So instead of, I used scikit-learn in Python to build a random forest classifier to predict customer churn. I managed to achieve an AUC of 0.713 after plenty of feature engineering, performing much better than the support vector machine, which is funny because blah, blah, blah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, please, Kim, could you help me with the second paragraph?
Absolutely. I build models that predicted when our customer segments are most likely to churn. You can see how targeted interventions here reduce churn by up to 4%, positively impacting revenue.
Perfect. So as you can see, the message is the same, but the words that in this case Nicholas has proposed are different, but the message is the same. So in the first part, when Greg read the paragraph, I just stopped listening to him when he was talking about the AUC and feature engineering. If we don't have, for example, if someone doesn't have the technical background, this is like Chinese or Hindi or Spanish. If you don't speak that languages, it's like, okay, I'm trying to understand, but I can't because I don't know the meaning of these things. But in the second example, this message is written in the way with the terminology of the stakeholders, so they understand about revenue, the customer segments, and this is the way that they understand or they use the information, and this message is really useful for these stakeholders. So this is the way that we need to start giving our results. I know that this is not so easy because we are like used to use the accuracy, all this terminology, the data scientists. But we need to enter into the mindset of our stakeholders. And maybe you are thinking now how to do that. So to do that, first we need to understand their mindsets. And we need to get into their world. How can we do that? For example, there are some groups on LinkedIn or other social media when we can find our stakeholders. So we can get into these groups and start reading and knowing more about our stakeholders, how they use the terminology that in their business. Another thing is drink an e-coffee with your external or internal stakeholders. I have the background as a soft skill trainer, but along my all professional experience, I have performed different job positions. And I have used my soft skills, but to be a good one in my position, I need the information on how they work and how these people perform their work. So I used to do these coffee meetings and to try to understand what they do. In that way, I could do my work in a better way. And now I think this is a great way of doing the same now that I'm changing into the data science. So now my career is a technical one. So I need to learn more about data science, but not only about all the tools. I need to know, I need to think like a data science. And I'm doing a lot of e-coffees with a lot of data science to start getting this mindset from them. This is another advice. Another interesting advice could be read some articles about the business that you are interested in, or that you are performing some research to build a model. And you can read, for example, some articles of leaders from the field that you need to know more, because they are going to use the terminology. And maybe you are going to understand better the business problem if you start involved on that. Another thing is, when you start gathering all this terminology, try to use this terminology in your presentations and test with some feedback from your stakeholder if you are using in a right way this terminology. And another thing that I love is, I used to do that, and I think it's very, very interesting to do it. It's like use the hyperparameter tuning in your presentation. So every time that you give a presentation, ask for feedback and then try to implement the new ideas that you have and the ideas from your stakeholders. So this is a great way of starting changing from the paragraph 1 to paragraph 2 on this example that Nicholas has gave us in one of the last posts that he has published. And then this is something that we have to repeat constantly, because we need to, we are always learning, because we have different stakeholders. Because one presentation could be good for one kind of, or one type of audience, but maybe not for another type of audience. So you need to do this always. Then how can we sharpen our communication skills? I'm going to use this example from Luis. I don't know if you have, if you follow him, great, maybe you have read this post before. If not, please follow him, because he has really, really interesting material, like Nicholas too. They have very nice posts. And now I need more help. Please, I need 2 volunteers for this exercise. I need someone who can do the do sang. Who can help me? I'm going to
I want to volunteer
Tom.
Timothy Gordon. No, I want to
Okay.
volunteer Timothy Gordon.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do one of the roles.
Okay, team. So you are going to do the do some,
Okay.
and then let's check. Okay, I have a female volunteer.
I'll do Dalmi. This is Karen.
Hi, Karen. Thank you so much. Okay, so please, could you? Okay, this is as you can see, this is an abstract of a drama. Okay, and Dusan is a computer vision expert, and he's going to explain to Dalmi what is machine learning. So let's listen how he tried to do that. Okay, please start, Tim.
All right. Let's say we have a computer named Tarzan. He grew up on a deserted island, so he's never seen a woman in his life. But one day, Jane arrives on the island. He gives her a rock, and she doesn't like it. But when he gives her a flower, it makes her happy.
I see. He's never dated, so he doesn't know what women like.
That's right. So Tarzan keeps on trying. He catches a snake for her, but she doesn't like it. He gives her a cute rabbit, and that makes her happy. She seems displeased when he yells, but she likes it when he smiles. While building such experiences, he learns how to win Jane's heart.
I see. Hence the term machine learning.
Thank you so much, Karen and Tim. You did it amazing. Thank you. Yes, this is the way that okay, this is an analogy and this is part of a drama. We are not to do this kind of example with our stakeholders, but it's a very nice exercise. For example, when you try to explain something about your career to a person who doesn't know anything about that. I went to a workshop and they told me that I had to explain what is the meaning of being a soft skill trainer to a 5-year-old child. And this workshop was like every professional had to do the same. So this is a way of train your brain to use analogies or try to do big things like simple things. And this is a very nice exercise. You can start explaining what you are doing to your family, to your friends. And when your friend is like, what are you talking about? So try to tune your message until because the goal is to make them, to help them to understand what are you doing. So this is a very, very impactful exercise. So I invite you to do it. And this is not, you cannot do this from just in just minutes. You are going to be trained to do this, but you are going to do it. I'm sure about that. And then, as a conclusion, is the language is the key. Remember, it's not the language that we speak, is the language and the terminology that our stakeholders speak. But everything is around the understanding. So if we deliver a message, but the message doesn't arrive to our stakeholders, so we are not communicating. The understanding is the goal of our communication. So, and I extract this quote from a post from Giuseppe Bonacorso. And if you follow him, you know that he's like our philosophy. So I recommend you to follow Giuseppe. Okay, so this is something that we have to do every day, try to sharpen our communication skills, but I invite you to sharpen your communication skills, thinking on your professional future. So how are you going to improve your communication when you send your ideas, your results to our final stakeholders? So this is something that we are going to build together. It is something that we are trying to do in our mentoring session, but you need to train yourself every day. And thank you so much for this opportunity to share this with you.
Giovanna, just a couple of questions I could anticipate. So say someone is developing a presentation and they don't want to lose their audience. How do they go about gaining that knowledge? Who do they talk to get help for that?
Please, could you reformulate the question?
Yes. So let's say you're a geek like me, and you're struggling to tailor your language to your audience. Where do you go to get help?
I go to another geek and I present the message that I want to deliver to that geek. And I said, okay, this is my message. And that person has to be a person that I know, and I'm sure that he or her, she is going to give me feedback. And I can tune, hyperparameter tuning to present in a good way my message. Thank you for that question.
Do you think it's okay to go to a non-geek to say, is this making any sense?
Okay, the first, I think, I can't speak from my experience. Maybe other has another experience, but I think that maybe you can go, for example, in my case, I have not this technical background, but maybe I have the knowledge of the thing that I want to transmit, but I want to be sure about that. So I go to this person that has the knowledge, and I ask this person if the message in a technical way is correct, okay? And then I can go to the other person who doesn't have this background, technical background, and try to balance the message. Because remember, I have said that in the audience, I can have people with a technical background or non-technical background, or maybe people that in that moment is there because need to be there, but maybe they even know about what we are talking about, but they are just there. For example, I remember once I had the opportunity to go to a presentation, and among the people, among the audience, was a journalist, and he had to write an article about that. And the way that you are sure that everyone in that presentation can understand what you are talking about, you have to balance your message. So it's better if you don't use high level of technical terminology, the business terminology, because sometimes we change the technical for business, but when you talk with business terminology, maybe it's not the way to transmit to the technical audience. So we need to balance two of them. I've seen that some people prepare like a glossary to deliver to the audience in advance in order to understand, because sometimes it's necessary to present some terminology. That's my experience. Maybe we can get some ideas from our family too. Then I saw Guy and Jonathan that were trying to ask something. I don't know, Guy, do you want to go first?
Yes, thank you, Giovanna. In fact, you said what I'm going to say, so that's perfect. that when you are going to another geek, that you are sure that your content is correct, and your simplifying method, it doesn't corrupted the content because we are simplifying it. And then we are going to another person who's able to show us that he understand and he enjoy the presentation. So this is good, let's say, approach to do that. In fact, in the technical point of view, I was discussing previously with Tom, this is my last point, and I'm telling him that the technical presentation, just like an PNG image with the high resolution. So always you are able to reduce the resolution without losing the details, to keep it, to see it easier, to make it easier to show it easier to the audience. And then when you are going deeply with more, let's say, specialized people and technical point of view, can expand it once again. This is how I, let's say, see it. So sometimes always you are able to reduce, but at, let's say, specific point, you will lose the content, you will lose the image if you reduce this resolution. So this is how to balance all of this. So in fact, thank you, Giovanna. You said exactly what I'm going to say.
I'm glad to hear that. Right. Thank you so much. Then Jonathan.
You know,
thank
Gio, what I really, oh, Jonathan's got his hand up. Sorry, go, Jonathan.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to highlight some experiences that what you mentioned, Gio, about having that e-coffee. I found, well, I've reached out internally to a couple of people and just invited for a coffee as well. And it's a great experience during the COVID times. It's been over MS Teams, but yeah, you get to know the person on a different level, or the audience that you're looking at. It allows you to have a bit more further internal networking as well. And the company I'm with, they also have a tech and data community and area, and they do quarterly signups for lunch roulettes, and people from all different levels and different stakeholders put their name into the pool, and they're just matched up very randomly. And with this matchup that's so random, you get to meet those different stakeholders on different levels, and you can get to interact and learn what other people within the same, in this case, the data and tech community, what projects they're working on, and you can have a really solid conversation with this. So the e-coffee is definitely a very good point that you mentioned.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Donabel, you have raised your hand, please.
I think it was Tom first. So I'm queuing up after Tom.
Okay, yeah, sorry, Tom.
Actually, no, I want Donabel to go first, and I will raise my hand if I need to. Thank you, Donabel.
No, I actually just wanted to mention, I think similar to what you said, it really depends on your audience. And I think even if we, I guess in a way, simplify some of the terms, I think the value there is people who are really, really technical already and probably are not thinking it a different way. It gives them a different perspective. And some people might say, oh, I've never thought of it that way, or especially if it's a use case. If I'm working in higher ed, I'm always thinking of higher ed, but then I don't see the application maybe in retail or healthcare. So I think not necessarily similar to what Guy has said, not dumbing it down, but making it in a language that maybe everybody can relate to. So I've always used my mom. If there is a term I need to check, I could call my mom. Does this make sense to you? So my mom is like my litmus test. So
Nice.
That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Sam, it's your turn.
That is great. And Roxelle, I'm glad you got on. Our Brazilian Wonder Woman is here. No, Gio, I just wanted to say, every time you speak, you say something that I hadn't really thought about carefully enough. And like, for example, guys, when Giovanna was saying, remember to stay calm. No, I got that from her. And now I just repeat it a lot. And now she thinks it's coming from me. That's so like her. But I loved it you know, we've got to be careful on both ends. We go to our non-geek friends and say, where is this losing you? But then we have to go back to our geek friends and say, have I lost the purity of the message? And I think it's like the reinforced learning. You got to bounce back between policies and improvement, and it converges. But for me, I find that having a key stakeholder that helps me develop my presentation, but you got to be careful there. Just because they're the key stakeholder, they may be a geek or a non-geek, and you don't want to lose the other side of the room that might be listening, the other side of the audience that might be listening. So I love that, Giovanna, about checking with both sides. That was what I wanted to share, was my exciting takeaway this morning. I think too often I think, oh no, I'm not worried about the technical. I'm worried about reaching my non-technical friends. But no, don't offend. Boy, have I gotten in trouble, Gio, for offending my technical friends. But that's not correct. You know, I'm like, oh God, they're torturing me on terminology again.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone. I have read all the messages. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that it was useful for you. Thank you.
All right. With that, and you, yes, let's, everyone, please, to our dear Gio. Perfect response. Okay. Now I know it's going to be hard, but Greg is now insisting, obviously, that we call him Gary Gregoire Coquillo, but he has something important for us today. And I am giving him crap for his long display name, but I'm excited to hear this too. He's coming at it from a different angle to give us an illustration of the great points we made last week on presentation quality. So go for it, Greg.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to talk here, Tom, and present. So full disclosure, I will not do Giovanna's presentation justice. Mine is full of writings, and this is meant to tailor to you guys, as I see you as solution builders, service providers, innovators, attending to the needs of business folks who want quick solutions, slow solutions, et cetera, et cetera. So the way I want you to think about this is building a framework around fully capturing the customer's pain point, or identifying the pain points they didn't even think about they were having, and then working backwards toward finding a solution, testing the prototype, and then releasing the full solution and monitoring to optimal performance. So with that, I'd like to share my screen if I'm allowed. So let me give it a try. Let me know, guys, if you can see my screen. Okay. I will look away because the presentation is over there, but just know that you are in my radar. So to me, any problem that comes to you, to us, we take it to find a solution. We think about the art of design thinking. So in this presentation, I'll go quickly about what I'm thinking about, or what it is. So please be merciful about my poor presentation skills here. So there's going to be a lot of reading. So quick heads up. So I believe that great products, they cannot be developed without a thoughtful process centered around the customer. That's how you work backwards. This is done by following design thinking framework. So basically, it's a methodology for creative problem solving. So it starts with, ends with, and continuously goes back to the customer. You never stop checking that pulse on the customer, what they think about your solution, what they think about your products. It allows you to develop innovative products that meet customer needs faster with fewer iterations. It can be applied to any products. So that's why I think you, as the audience of this presentation, you can find some value to this, whether it's a program or process, a service, widget, systems, a feature you're trying to release. It works at any stage of your product, whether it's an idea, whether you have an established business, a mature system, you can use system thinking. It applies to all customers, internal, external, within your organization. Brings the stage of developing new ideas. So, and you want to implement an iterative process that is customer focused, design thinking is the way for you. You'll get to know your customers, you get to know their problems, you'll learn from their pain points and transform that into a fast way, scrappy solution that you can build, test, and then you can gather a lot of ideas around building that solution, so you can figure out what best idea to launch in the marketplace. It's designed to get you to learn directly from people too. So you open up yourself to a lot of possibilities. So you don't really box yourself around just, oh, but I'm limited to X, Y, Z. So it really helps you open up your mind as a group to the possibilities to serve that customer. Doesn't mean you're going to tackle the craziest idea, but at least it helps you zero in on what really matters for the customer. Lastly, design thinking isn't really a science or a linear process, but it really is beneficial to any kind of projects. And to do that, we have to go to 5 phases. So in this presentation, I will go quickly into those 5 phases. Those are customer empathy, insight generation, ideation, prototyping, testing, and improving. So we'll get to this right away, starting with customer empathy. Now, customer empathy, this is just simply meaning finding, it's about the importance of truly understanding the customer needs. And to do that, you have to empathize with them. And when you empathize with your customers, you can discover their hidden needs also, the things that they didn't know or the problems they didn't know they had. You're able to think like them. You're able to experience their journey. And it allows you to understand why they do certain things the way they do it. And with empathy, you're able to also discover how the customers measure the performance of your products. And you can capture those and measure them yourself or monitor them yourself to understand what makes customers tick, or to understand what really drives revenue for your products. With that, you have to conduct multiple researches. There are different ones: qualitative research, quantitative research. How to perform qualitative research: you can do customer interviews, you can do focus groups. Pardon this slide, it looks kind of crappy. I'm just realizing that. Usability studies, you could do some other tools you could use. For quantitative research, there are customer surveys. If you have some data warehouses, you could pull to track any past performance for your products that can speak directly to the customer experience. Couple cautions here for your customer research in phase. You want to make sure you do the due diligence on the actual customers. So you don't want to just perform research on everybody. You're targeting a set of customers. So if you have smartwatches, you want to survey customers who are purchasing smartwatches and try to not make it too broad. Make sure that your assumptions are based on existing data points. They don't make assumptions on those. You want to validate and validate, and the only group that can give you that feedback are the customers themselves. So don't just pull your data and say, well, we have everything we need. Go straight to the source. Make sure you talk to different customers, have a broad range. Make sure you cover the full population that you're trying to interview. One customer might not be able to speak to all customers of your fancy watch there. Challenge your assumptions. If you thought it was industry knowledge that your watch should, behave certain ways or render certain services, well, challenge that. That's why the customers are able to tell you, personally what they feel about those. Now, we've gone through customer empathy. We collected all their feedback. We move on to insight generation. This simply means you will, this phase here, you'll learn how to design insightful statements. With that, all you're doing here is gathering some feedback, take a good look at them, and then start sorting them out. But before sorting them out, you're trying to ingest and digest what the customers tell you. So with that, you have a couple questions you can ask. What did you hear from the customer again and again? Those are the trends. Those are the pain points that keep showing up again and again. What consistent problems do your customers face? What feels significant? What surprised you? You are making discovery. Customers might not be enjoying certain aspects of your products, and those surveys, those questions, those feedbacks you're getting might surprise you. And with that, you want to create a list of important themes, the things that show up all the time, so you can kind of set yourself up for prioritizing the things that truly matters that you need to address right away. So an insight statement needs to have three components. It has to have a description of the current customer experience. It has to illustrate why it's frustrating for the customer, and it has the desired end state. So you describe what the customer is going through, why it's kind of not the best thing for them to go through, and then you express, okay, this is how you would want to solve at a high level the problem for the customer. Now, with that, you want to draw a customer journey map. I won't go into details for the customer journey map, but the customer journey map helps you visualize the story, the journey of that customer from using your product or seeing your product on a web server, for example, to exploring it, to deciding to purchase, and to receiving that product, and then experiencing that product at hand. And then that closed loop providing you feedback, whether it's a great product or not a good product. So you want to make sure you capture a very clear picture of that. You want to make sure you understand what questions the customer have, how are they feeling as they experience the product. And in this process, by building the customer journey map, this is how you clearly establish that you've identified the gaps. And also you've identified some potential opportunities to enhance their experience. Couple tips for a customer journey map. You want to think about it as a poster pinned into an office wall. You don't want to make it too complex. You want to make it easy, and don't get caught up into multiple routes a user might take. So the purpose of this map is to tell a story so you can keep all the team engaged towards one purpose, which is focusing on those big ticket items that you've identified as big pain points for your customer. So at the end of the day, it's just a map. It's truly to truly impact the customer experience, you have to take action. Now, you've built your customer map. You understand what the problems are. You want to go through ideation. So this is where you go through a set of abstractions. So the ideation phase transforms your research and insight into actionable ideas that will become the foundation of your design. Ideation is about defining opportunities, generating ideas. So for me, when I work as a group, this is where I come off as the oddball sometimes, because I like to think that alien exists, right? So I come up with the craziest ideas and I throw it in the bucket for everybody. So with that, exploring new solutions and ideas through brainstorming is called divergent. But making the best choice out of these choices is called convergent. Now, throughout this process, you go through diverging and converging. This is where you have, as a group, you come in, put different ideas at the table. Some people might say, well, that's crazy, but let's put it in a bucket. Then you go, okay, now we've gone through all these ideas. We need to focus on the ones that are most feasible based on impact and effort. And this is how, as you go to more of a diverging and converging, you'll start sorting through the solutions or the ideas that are mostly possible for the customer. Now, how might we statements might help you through that ideation process? How provides a creative confidence to explore, suggests that you do not have, and suggests that you do not have answers yet. The might allows you to explore multiple possible solutions, whether they work or not. So the might is where I'm saying I usually come across as, this guy is crazy, why are you thinking so big, kind of thing. Because I always believe if you can think about it, then it's a possibility. Let's put it in the pot and then explore whether it's truly feasible based on reality, based on whatever we're facing for the customer. We invokes teamwork. This is not a process where you're doing it by yourself. So a couple ingredients of the how might we state framework. You want it to be customer centric. You want to be broad enough for creative freedom, and you want it to be narrow enough to make it manageable. So don't go too abroad with your ideas. How might we? A couple questions to brainstorm. How might we amplify what's good? And as I go through these questions, think about, as a data scientist, come up with solutions, right? Come up with the best process to enable a solution. How might we amplify what's good? How might we remove what's bad? Focus on emotions, take it to an extreme, question an assumption, create an analogy, focus on a single element, leverage unexpected resources, or break it into pieces. So at this point, you've decided on the problems to solve. It's time to brainstorm for a solution. So brainstorm taps into a broad body of knowledge and creativity to produce ideas, usually as a group. There are many ways to brainstorm, and you want to promote openness, and you don't want to shut down what the other team members are thinking, and you don't want to be solution oriented. This actually is counterintuitive, but it actually closes up your mind for a long-term solution that you might implement. Sometimes we want to answer so fast to a customer pain that we come up with a short-term solution that you might come back to a year later and scratch your head around, okay, now what do we do for a long term? When you could have think big about it, come up with a long-term solution and start working on it right away. This is now you're coming in a way where you're honing in on that convergence, where you want to go from problem to solution. To go from problem to solution, you want to take a pause. You did your job about coming up with innovative ideas, and it's time to take a look at your concept with a critical lens, figure out what to pursue, what to put on the table, what to put on the parking lot, and you want to focus on a small set of solutions, and the way to test that solution is through prototyping. And this is the phase we are now. What is a prototype? It's a rudimentary, tangible representation of your idea. or it's an early working model of something. A prototype allows you to test and refine the functionality of your product. It helps you describe your product with a product more effectively with your team. It also it forces you to ask questions and make choices about what's good, what's not good. And with a prototype, you might also discover additional opportunities. And also you might discover some restrictions you might have that exist in your current systems as well, that you're able to address right away before even releasing that prototype. For a prototype, you want to go from what we call a low fidelity version to a high fidelity version. And to go to that is, as a team, you come up with the prototype, then you put it in the customer's hands, ask for feedback. So it could be the very same customers that you targeted before. As you're getting the feedback, you evolve the detail and resolution of your prototype over time. Ultimately, you start from low fidelity to a high fidelity product or prototype where you should end up. And you have captured now the complete customer flow of what resembles a real product and what addresses or enhances the true customer experience. Now, one key tip, embrace failure. You will find customers saying, what the heck is that prototype kind of thing? If you aren't failing, this is just a general philosophy. You may not be thinking big enough, or you may not be moving fast enough. Prototyping is all about failure, capturing that feedback, and making sure you make adjustments as fast as possible, as cheap as possible, and you want to leave enough time and resources to learn from that experience to iterate. So gathering feedback is very important. You want to make sure through that prototyping phase, you're getting input from your customers and your key stakeholders. You want to invite honesty, and you want to adapt on the fly. Now that you've prototyped, you've released it to your customers, you've gathered feedback. The last phase is to test and improve. This is where you want to implement your product in the real world, and you want to continue the design thinking process because it never stops. It's an iterative approach. And just to show you here, this is what I would call the flywheel of design thinking, because you go back to that circle at the point where when you test, you go back to customer empathy, and quicker this time as you continuously improve your product or your solution. So you're ready to launch. You've gained all the confidence that you needed for your prototype. You launched the product in the marketplace. You good? Yay. This is a quick little flywheel here to gathering feedback from people. It's a never-ending process. So you want to create that feedback platform, you share it, you review that feedback, then you refine your product. It never stops. So this is what we call the iterative process of launching your real life product. Don't think of, again, the design thinking as a linear progression. You will have to jump back and forth between phases, and you'll also be get fast at it too. The first time might take a couple weeks, even months, but as you iterate, as you improve your product, this cycle, what we call the cycle time, goes down, and this is the process that you want to make sure you leverage to make sure you keep the customer at heart. And when people talk about working backwards, that's exactly right. That's exactly what it means, is to stay focused on the customer, and working backwards to figure out what the best solutions are. So a couple tips for testing and improving. So you want to have creative confidence. From David Kelly, founder of IDEO, he says, creative confidence is the notion that you have big ideas and that you have the ability to act on them. You want to learn from failure. From Henry Ford, you have failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. I really love that one because sometimes we as a society, or okay, me, I tend to punish myself a lot when I fail. So this truly speaks to me. You want to embrace ambiguity. Dr. Abe Tannenbaum, social psychologist, says the creative person is willing to live with ambiguity. Do you guys have ambiguity in data science? I bet you do. He doesn't need problem solved immediately and can afford to wait for the right ideas. Lastly, you want to be optimistic. From John Beilingberg, co-founder of Future Partners and founder of Project M. Constraints are inevitable and they often push us towards unexpected solutions. I like that one too. Coming from being a industrial engineer, operations research taught me that, coming up with algorithms, implementing constraints. And these constraints are not meant to limit you, but to push yourself to thinking outside the box and coming up with solutions for your customers. Again, in this presentation, I went through the flywheel of design thinking. We talked about customer empathy, insight generation, ideation, prototyping, testing, and improving. You have to be diligent. It requires active participation. You're not doing it by yourself. Most likely, you're a scientist or a professional working as a group. You will hit roadblocks. You'll learn something new. These roadblocks are also learning points. And these roadblocks will force you to go back to the drawing board. Even though you go step backwards, you will always find a way to move forward with this flywheel. And that's how you get the best solution. That's how you become successful for your customers. Thank you, guys.
Greg, I guess I can just go first since I had my hand up and I'm the moderator. Hey, that was awesome. I want to defend something Greg did, though. Why would Greg use a lot of text in his slides? Does anybody know? Yes, Kim, please.
I had to unmute myself. I think it's so that we can reread this and really take it in, because sometimes you can't capture something visually and reconvey exactly what was happening, particularly when people are reviewing it after the class or if they missed the class.
You're making me laugh. I think that that's awesome, but I'm going to give the answer. And oh, wait, no, Jonathan, you try. And I'll lower my hand. That's ridiculous.
No, well, it's probably not the answer, but every type of audience has different perspectives on how they take in information. Some people are more visual, some people are more text, and it also depends on the color and the environment. And you have to have the right slide to the right audience. If you're using visuals that where someone is more keen on text, it's not going to sink in or the message get across to them. Whereas if you use more text to someone that's more visual perceptive, it's also not going to work for them. So you, depending on what you use, depend what will be correct for the audience as well.
So now you may have to help me with the pronunciation of your name. Ugochukwu. How'd I do?
Amazing. Amazing.
Oh, good.
Amazing thumb. All right. So I would lower my hand down. Let me just do that right away. Okay. So great one, Greg. Great one. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, speak louder for us, please.
Okay. Okay. So is it better now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So my question is this. I was privileged to be part of a team. We were working on an app, and we're supposed to build it with the rapid development, paradigm. But at the point we had an argument. It was a case of a part of the team wanted us to invite the end users, some of the end users of the app, to be part of the process right from the UX design. But some other people said, no, that's the whole essence of prototyping. So when we would release the prototype, then we would get the users to do a beta test probably, and then give us feedback. So that was a sharp argument at one point, but I didn't know what design thinking really meant at that point in time. So I couldn't tell them, okay, hey, this is correct, this is the wrong one. But thinking about it now, because I left the team before the project was done, but thinking about it now, I'm like, for an application you're trying to build using the rapid application development paradigm, what is the best way to go about it using these principles of design thinking you just shared? Would it be right to invite the users right from the UX design, or would it be at the prototyping stage? Thank you.
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Ugo. I'm gonna go short with this one because I don't want to say the whole thing. Tom is more, brave than me. So I think because design thinking is not a science, and because you don't have to go through a certain order, it depends on the stage you are in the product. In your case, you're releasing a new product out there. I don't think it hurts to invite customers in the UX design. And inviting them is part of prototyping too. You can call it prototyping. It really doesn't hurt, but it has to be a consensus, right? If the group, decides that a prototype is, the time for you to wait to get the customer the first chance to experience the app, then you learn from that. Then on the next one, maybe you want to have a different approach and invite them a little bit earlier before the prototyping. You want to see what the benefits of the two are. So you have one where you don't invite anyone, but here's another question that I have. So I'm going a little bit crazy about this one. So if you're prototyping, that means you've already gone to customer research. That means you've already gathered what they're looking for. So at this point, when you get to the prototype stage, you should already have a sense of what they're thinking about the design. Am I not, like the UX, right? Go ahead, Hugo.
Okay, yeah. So this is it. One of our teammates then was heavily influenced by Steve Jobs. So he will always say, customers do not know what they want until they see, So that was his paradigm, and it was, well, would I say fortunately, unfortunately, one of the lead guys at the team. So his paradigm was this: customers really don't know what they want until they see something. Then they can only now start contributing to make an improvement to what we have. But we can't trust them enough to bring them in at the stage of UX development, because they're going to slow down the work since we're trying to do rapid development. So it was like a departure point really for us.
Okay, yeah, I totally get it. I do understand. I do understand this strategy, right? But if you think about the flywheel for design thinking, you go from customer empathy to insight generation. Inside of customer empathy, you would have already caught the pain point, what the customer would like. It should give you an idea of what that user interface should look like. And then you should have enough for the prototype. So in this case, inside of customer empathy is where you would have already invited the customer in to capture all of that through the research, the the group, interviews that you're performing with the customers, you would have already tried to capture what they want and then really figure out how to stage that prototype where you would add things in where you would have discovered the issues they didn't even think they had, which is that concept that Steve Jobs has, right? So even though he says that, I do believe that you want to hone in on what the customer is experiencing. And the customer is only the one who can tell you what it is.
Let's go to another question. And guys, forgive me. I am now getting confused by the hand raise order. I assume it's best to go left to right on my screen, but if I get you in the wrong order, no, it was unintentional. And Jaya, would you please ask your question? By the way, I still don't think anyone's given the right answer to why Greg tends to use a lot of text in his slides. I'm not even sure Greg could tell us, but I'll tell you when we're through with the questions. Jaya, ask your question, please.
I have a quick answer for that. I'll give it later. Sorry. Go ahead, Jaya.
Yeah. By the way, my name is Jaya. So
Jaya.
Oh, thank you.
J,
Thank you.
J has in letter J. Yeah. So I was an instructional designer for many years, and I want to answer about the tax question here. But again, it really depends on the audience you get, the type of people you get. So I think understanding who your audience is really dictates what you put in your slide. When I was a designer, we put less text and have you speak more. Just highlight your bullet points that you want to say, and then you don't put all what you're going to speak on the slide, and just put like 5 bullet points in the slide, and then you speak. And yeah, that's what I want to share. But again, it all depends on the audience. It could be a technical audience, it could be the end user, it could be a salesperson, it could be a marketing person. You really have to tailor your presentation based on your audience. If you do too much technical and then your audience is not, then you're going to lose them. So I think knowing the audience is key. And the other thing is, I noticed, Greg, you cut stuff and you put on your slide. I would say maybe write it out. Write it out, meaning just write the bullet points out, and you should be good. So speak from your heart and use your bullet as your guide. And you can have little, those little cards, 3x5 index cards to kind of look at it and glance over it from time to time. So that will help. So, but I think the content you provided, the design thinking and those charts, those 5-star charts were amazing. So I think use that as your guide and just speak your way through the conversation. And I would say practice in front of your wife or your kids. Let them be your guide. So, practice. And I've done that many times. I was in public speaking, speak in front of your kids and your husband, and your wife, or, that works, and they will critique you like crazy. So, and take notes of what are the input they are providing. So that helps. And yeah, the content is great. And I definitely say you did a fantastic job. So.
I am relieved to see the correct answers. It's just Greg's a victim of his own culture, and it's not a bad culture, obviously. And I mean victim in a joking way. So, okay, Donabelle, I have you next in order, and thanks for lowering hands that are done asking. Eager to hear from you, Donabelle.
No, I was actually just gonna mention, so similar to what everybody has said, maybe because of the audience, maybe we are the audience and Greg knows us and we probably like reading, so he's catering to the audience. But also, a lot of the really bad PowerPoint presentations are where presenters are reading through all the text only, but Greg did not do that. So I'm actually coming here for Greg's defense. He did not really just read through all the text. There were use cases. He kind of spoke outside of whatever was in the PowerPoint slide. And I think in certain cases, because again, especially for us, we are the audience, we're more on the technical side, I think that works. So yeah, I appreciated the presentation, Greg. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donabelle.
Awesome. And we have Jonathan.
Oh, me again? No, I was just thinking of Greg's culture, what he mentioned last week about Amazon, and they use the Word document. So he's used to doing in that culture a lot of text in the Word document, and that's how he's brought it across into the PowerPoint. That's
Yeah, and I do have a full confession on this one. So this one is full of text because I got lazy. That's pretty much it. I don't have any other excuses. So
You ran the mama culture though too. That's
I
okay.
got lazy. I just wanted to make sure I drove the point across. So hopefully I did hopefully I did design thinking justice, in that the gist of the message was ingested. So knowing that it wasn't tailored to the best way, and I do agree. It depends on your audience. I fully agree with Jaya too. Bullet points are key. Knowing your story and connecting with the audience, definitely, for sure. So appreciate that.
And I'm figuring the order thing out now. I know it has to be Ngazi next. So let's hear from you, Ngazi.
Hi, everybody.
Ngazi, real quick, remind us where you're calling in from.
From London, UK.
Okay. I get confused. Where are
Where
you
I
from?
am.
Yeah, where are you from originally?
Gochuku would know where I'm from. We're from the same tribe in Nigeria.
Nice. Good to know.
Yeah. Welcome,
Awesome.
Google. Welcome. Yeah. Okay, so I was just going to say that Greg's presentation was heavily influenced by the Amazon side. But I think I appreciate it because you can easily take it away and read and get the full gist of what he was presenting, which would be different if he just had, if he talked through, we'll walk away and not remember what he's saying.
Excellent. Yes, agreed. And
Yeah.
forgive me.
But back to Ugo's question earlier, where he was talking about the prototype and stuff. I think if you've already got a sense of an idea of the pain problem you're trying to solve, then I think you can easily do the prototype, or what we call the minimum viable product in Agile methodology, which you can then show your client, because for you to have anything to design, you already identified a pain problem, a pain point of, you wanted to address. And I can see where getting, even if it's a minimum viable product, across in front of the your customer would be important, because then they can critique it and you can get more value from having that contact with them, instead of calling them again to address their pain problem, because it may not be possible for you to cater to all the things they describe, even if you had a second meeting. But if you have the minimum viable product, then you build up from there. That's what we do in my team.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's me done, Tom. Yeah.
Excellent. Gaith, did you still have your question? Because you would be next in order. Oh, okay. Roxelle, we're eager to hear from you.
Yes, thank you, Greg, for this presentation, the design thinking. I try to use all the tools to all the fields of my life. Next Monday, I will have a presentation that I think that I can take some lessons from this presentation that you show it to us. It will be very useful. Be very useful. Sorry.
Thank you, Roxelle.
Yeah, thank you. Greg, I wanted to highlight some points. By the way, guys, same thing by a different name, design methodology. And I think Gaith and I were both excited about Greg's emphasis on having to bounce around in the process, because that's going to be one of the big points in our methodologies class for machine learning. It's very realistic there. Why? Because we're designing a data flow from raw data all the way to predictions. And that takes a lot of work. That is a product when we get through with it. So this presentation is actually very key, a very good other way to look at what we will be doing big picture wise in our machine learning class that we're doing with you guys. Greg, I actually found the larger amount of text refreshing, and I took it right away that has to be your Amazon culture influencing you, which is a good thing. But I want to give, and I hope you guys maybe even get a little tired of me saying this. There is a one-word summary for Greg's entire talk. And Greg, this isn't a challenge. I'm just curious. Can you guess what one word I would use to describe your whole talk? It's okay. It's okay. It's a four-letter word. I'll give you a hint. It's a four-letter word. Yeah, Guy's got it in the comments.
Here.
So here's what I mean. And I'm drawing from some geek areas too. What state are you trying to achieve with this methodology? Something that delights your customers. How do you figure out what your customers want? You care to go talk to them. You care to get their frequent feedback in the process. In fact, if you study control system design and you look at what happens when you don't collect your current state frequently enough and provide it frequently enough to your controller, you create instabilities in your system. You want to have an unstable development process? Don't care about your customers. Don't talk to them enough. Don't get their feedback while you're developing your product. Because a lot of times what will happen, you think you've had these customer interviews, you've talked to them, you've gotten all the data up front, but while you're developing, you don't check in with them. And like many of you have said, what can happen? Oh, now that I see this, you know what would be really nice? Measure the frustration you feel by statements like that early in the design process versus at the end of the design process. The person at the end of the design process is going to say, why didn't you tell us that up front, damn it? But the person that's getting feedback frequently is not going to be nearly as frustrated. They're going to go, wow, am I so glad we took our piece of crap prototype and showed it to them as soon as possible so they could say, you know, it would really be nice if, and that's why my favorite part of the talk was, how might we? Well, what's the best way to answer how might we? Get off your butt. I'm talking to myself here as I talk partially. Get off your butt, Tom Ives, and go talk to the customer, the person that is going to hopefully buy this thing, instead of just staring at your stupid computer screens all day, which I really love doing, by the way, but I've learned that it's the worst thing I can do to myself. So that's my take on this whole thing. I love parsimony, where I can boil down something to a one-word statement. How do you become a good designer? You care.
So I know Membrit has a question, and then Magdi. We can go to Magdi because Magdi has a question as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I might have a very profound question, actually. I would like to have your opinion about this design thinking, just to place it. Do you think that it is, or do you mean that design thinking is the optimal approach? And I'm just asking because I'm just wondering how many companies are using. I mean, proportional. Is it a big majority who use it? And I'm asking it because the very first stage, the customer embrace empathy, because you started with recognize hidden needs, and a lot of times I have the feeling that they create needs instead of answering or replying to customer needs. For example, car manufacturer or phone manufacturer. A lot of times I have a feeling that they inside in newly developed cars what I don't need. So it is too much blah blah about lot of things. So I as a customer, a lot of times I feel that they create a product which is, they mean creating a needs and not a response to my needs or a hidden needs of customers. And I'm not talking about only my needs, in general, about the customer needs. And that's why I'm just wondering, how do you place this whole design thinking in terms of companies in general? Is it a widely used way of producing or creating products or services or whatever? Or I just want to understand where to place it, because I understand the concept. I agree with it. It's fine, but I don't know how to place it in terms of companies, for example, how widely used, for example.
Yeah, so it depends, right? So there are people who are very good at creating products or creating a market for a new product. Ugo alluded to it. Apple, Steve Jobs is probably the best one I can think now, who comes up with a product that the market did not need. But there are also products that are moving towards, not necessarily based on, what, we need as a society, but has an impact on nature. So the movement of cars going electric, it's more like, it's not because we needed that, right? Because we already had cars, right? So the need towards sustainability trumped everything, and builders were able to create a market for that, for the electric cars. And then, so I think design thinking can be implemented into anything, whether it's something you're creating out of nothing, meaning you're creating a new market for it, or an existing market. Regardless, inside of that flywheel, there's that time where you need to put the prototype out and have people test it. And this is how you get true data, true feedback, whether that market you're trying to create or that existing market is able to adapt or adopt that prototype. That gives you the right pulse to scale that product. So that's the best way I can think of it.
Greg, I want to do something here. This was powerful. So let's push a pause button, because I think no one wants to leave, but no one wants to miss anything. That's why we have an after party. An important thing. So we wanted to give Women's Day justice, and we wanted to talk about that, but we've clearly run out of time. So Manpreet will lead with Women's Day next time. And then if we get to a good stopping point with that, we'll come back to this presentations and design thinking material as a family. Guy, if you could, what do you think? Is your question short, or you want to hold it for when we reconvene this topic?
In fact, I don't have any question. It's just a kind of comment that needs, sometimes it will be seduction, it will be replaced by needs. So if you don't have a need, you are going to seduce the customer to use your product. So this will work well. But I think Manpreet, she has something else to tell us about the Women's Day. So yes. I think, Manpreet, we have to listen to her.
Yes, we're eager to hear you, Manpreet.
First thing I want to say that if anyone noticed that the way how Greg presented the presentation, it was with so much of confidence that he wore that we were so intrigued and listening to him carefully. So I guess one important thing while presenting is also to be confident about your content that you are presenting, irrespective of what at least it's written on your slides. If you're confident enough with your content, it works. And secondly, as on 8th of March, we celebrate International Women's Day. I'll be hosting a live on LinkedIn, my LinkedIn, with Magdi, Kim, Zaina, Donna Bell as well. And if you would like to talk about some things that as a woman face, and we would like to talk that same on next Saturday. And as a woman, we face a lot of things in our career with respect to family. We have a lot of, being in India, I can tell we have a lot of restrictions, and just want to bring on and talk about things, about different things with you all. So that's it. Thank you.